NACC fans, we have a special guest on this evening. I know things right now out in the real world are tough, and I hope everybody is doing well and families are healthy and being safe and trying to enjoy some quality time indoors. But wanted to get on tonight with someone that is special to me because he worked with me for a few years at Rockford, was my assistant coach, one of my assistant coaches for a few years. A little bit about him is Charles Ruffing. Goes by Chuck Ruffing, depending on who you talk to. But he is currently the assistant men's basketball coach at Wisconsin Lutheran, who just this season was co-NACC champs regular season. They had a 19-7 record on the year. Prior to that, he was with me at Rockford for 4 years, where we had some pretty successful seasons. And he got his first start in college coaching at Franklin College in Indiana, where he coached 2 HCAC all-conference selection, including the conference's leading scorer. So, Coach Ruffing, how you doing?
Coach, I'm good. I appreciate you having me on. How's it going?
Can't complain. You know, can always be worse. But, you know, family's healthy and getting to spend some good quality time with them. So things are going well. But talk about things going well. You guys had a great year this year.
Yeah, we did. Was fortunate to have really good guys all around, from a coaching staff standpoint. One of the most fun staffs that I've been a part of in my career so far. And then from a player standpoint, that's what it's all about, the players. And we were blessed with a really good group this year, a bunch of guys that really bought into what we were trying to do, and I think that played a huge part in the success that we had this year.
And how do you think things came together? You got the job in August, right before school started, and kind of take us from there. Kind of take us through that process and when you got there at the beginning of August to really going through the season and then now to where you guys are in the off season and what is not a normal off season for you guys.
Yeah, so I got the job pretty late in summer there, as you know, and I got in, and the best thing was that Coach Onenson was very, very willing to help me out, just with the whole moving, getting me settled, getting me acclimated with everybody at the college. And, that's always huge. Anytime you're taking a new job, you got those little nervous jitters trying to figure out, where you fit and how things are going to go. And, I was fortunate enough to have a guy in Coach Onenson, who goes over and beyond the call of duty when it comes to taking care of people. And that's what's been great this year and working for him is the fact that, he doesn't just treat you like you're another assistant or another player. He cares about you as the person. And he's a family guy. So, it made everything as far as the transition a lot easier to get into. And then, as far as the players and the program, I think the biggest thing was, having those meetings early on and getting acclimated with one another. One of the benefits that I've had is the fact that I have a strength and conditioning background, which has allowed me to be able to work with guys. And, you're able to create those relationships at a much faster pace. And anytime you're making a transition into a new program, that's probably the most critical part is creating those relationships and building that trust. So when you finally get on the court with these guys, there's some relationship there. There's some connections that have already been made. And, I think that was huge. And, I think that was the utmost importance with Coach Onenson is, hey, I really want you to get to know these guys. And so we can hit the ground running when October 15th rolls around.
And for you, I know that's important, and that's, I think just from working with you for 4 years at Rockford, I think that's what is probably your best asset it's not just the basketball stuff, but it's the relationships outside of basketball. I know
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times you spend times with guys outside of the classroom, outside of basketball, spending time with them in the cafeteria or just, in between classes hanging out. That's where you build those relationships, in what role or what, was there a kind of a moment where you kind of felt like, all right, this is home and everything is comfortable now and fitting right in and no worries anymore moving forward? Was there a moment that made you feel like that, or?
I think the moment was when we got to October 15th, believe it or not. It's the one day that every coach has on their calendar at our level because it's the first official day. And, I was just as nervous as anybody else walking into that gym. And I think once you get the balls out there and you get to going, I think things start to kind of take care of themselves. And, I was fortunate enough, this move to Milwaukee was awesome because, I'm closer to family now as well. I'm originally from Green Bay. So being back in the state was pretty comforting, a lot of recruiting ties and stuff like that. So, it was, like I said, it was a easier transition than what I could have ever imagined. And, but yeah, if I had to pick one moment, I probably would say October 15th when, we finally hit the court. That's when I'm like, here we go, let's go.
And it kind of took off for you guys right from there, right? Great season, 19-7 overall, first NACC championship in program history. You guys hosted semifinals in the NACC tournament. I know the season ended earlier than what you guys had wanted and probably anticipated, but overall, pretty good season, pretty successful.
Yeah, like I said, I'll never stop talking about the players. You can never talk about them enough because at the end of the day, that's what we're in this business for, and that's what we're here for, is to help develop young men and become, at the end of the day, better people. Because if you can create better people, you're going to have better players. And I think this year was a real testament to that. Coach Ottenson was very intentional with everything that he did. For example, something that we did this year that I've never been a part of is we read a book as a team. The book was The Power of a Positive Team by John Gordon. And we broke that down periodically throughout the entire season. And Coach was very intentional with it. Guys took it serious, which was awesome to see. And, I think, when you can win in the locker room, you give yourself a chance to win on the court. And, every coach knows that it starts day one in that locker room. And we were really fortunate enough to have a bunch of unselfish guys that bought in really early. And, it turned out to be an unbelievable season. One of the most special things I've ever been a part of in my career so far. It was a lot of fun.
Was there a point in the season where you and the staff felt like, all right, we're going to win conference, or we're one of the top teams in the conference? Was there a point in the season where you guys felt like that?
It's funny you say that. Early on in the season as a coach, game days are some of the toughest and most stressful days that there are. You don't really know what to expect, that very first game. And to be honest, we really did, in all honesty, approach it game by game. I think that's the only way you can do it. And, I guess it didn't really become a reality until that last game of the year because we needed some things to happen in our favor, and it did. And the guys were locked in week in and week out, and it paid dividends at the end of the year. And, I think that's one of those things, finding adversity as a team. We didn't really know how that was going to go there at the end of the season. And guys just came to practice every day. And that's actually, to be honest with you, one of the unique things that I've seen in my time of coaching is the fact that you usually have a hard time getting guys to want to be at practice at the end of the year. And not only did our guys want to be there, but they were competing, getting after each other every single day. And Coach A looks at me and he's like, Ruff, I think we got a chance to be special. These guys, at the end of the year to compete, going at each other in practice. And that's always a really positive sign at the end of the year. Shows that everybody's bought in and everybody's doing it for the right reasons.
And I mean, that's what coaching is about. You know, you want to be able to have meaningful practices at the end of the season. You know, especially in the NACC where only the top 6 teams get in the conference tournament, and some teams are eliminated before that last week. You know, so they're going in a week with possibly 2 games. And as coaches, we always view every practice as meaningful, whether it's, you know, the last practice of the year and you know that Saturday game is going to be the last one to where it's not, you know, that's where the season's end. Or you put yourself in a position to, you know, handle business and you get into the NACC tournament. But for coaches, it always matters, but it's always tough for the players, you know, especially the upperclassmen. But you guys had a pretty special senior who went out on a high note. Mr. Brudnick went out with NACC Player of the Year, All-Region by D3 Hoops and NABC. You know, what made him so special? You know, I know you and I had a lot of conversations throughout the season, but, you know, what made him special and what made him kind of make that big step from being Robin to Kennedy's Batman last year to, you know, stepping up and being that go-to guy this year?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to coach a lot of really good players from my time at Franklin, Rockford, and now WLC. And the one thing that made Bruggs different than a lot of guys that I've been around is how coachable he was. You know, I've never seen a kid that took coaching as well as he has. He was a guy that we rode the entire season. You know, I think a lot of guys, a lot of coaches, you know, at times you're tentative with your best player and some of your better players at times. But at the end of the day, if you can coach those guys harder than you can coach anybody else, everybody else buys in. And that is 100% the thing that made him special. He's a great teammate. You know, he bought in day one. You know, we'd ride him the entire practice. And the next day he'd be in the office, you know, chatting up with us that next morning at 9 a.m., you know, asking, hey, Coach, what do we got to do? What do I have to do to get better? You know, and the other thing is when you got a senior like that kind of takes that bull by the horns, you know, he's able to help coach some of those other players. And when you get guys to buy into each other, that's special. You know, the best teams are player-led teams, and I think that's what we had this year. And I really think at the end of the day, that's really what made us special. And all of our guys got along. You know, they all loved each other. And you could see it as the season went on because at the end of the day, you're going to face adversity all season. And how do you respond to it? And our guys really were bought in and responding positively.
And he was a guy that put in a lot of work outside of practice. You know, you guys had a daily routine once the season started, and you got a chance to work out with him in small group and individual workouts. You guys had a pretty good set routine, didn't you?
Yep. Coach Anderson's huge on skill development. At the end of the day, that can be an X factor at our level. If you can really take advantage of developing guys at this level, it makes a huge difference. I think the most important thing is, though, you got to have guys that are workers, guys that love to be in the gym. As you know, there's a lot of guys that come in as, you know, higher touted recruits than other guys, but at the end of the day, some of those other guys end up being the hardest workers, the guys with the chip on their shoulder, and those are the guys that get after it the hardest. And, you know, with Andrew, he was a guy that was in the gym multiple times a day. And the thing is, he wasn't the only one. I mean, most of our guys, if not all, were in the gym. And I think that's, you know, that's a testament to Coach A and what he's done and getting this thing running here at WLC.
And I mean, you're right. That's what it is. You know, and there's a lot of things that are said about Division III basketball, and some of them are true. You know, we don't have a lot of we didn't have a lot of access to our guys prior to October 15th, but you know, once October 15th started, our guys put in just as much as work, if not more, than guys at other levels. You know, just with small group workouts, extra workouts before and after practice. On the weekends, you know, finding time to get into the gym. And And like you said, those guys that spend time in the gym, it always paid off for them. You know, it took some time for some guys to have that hard work paid off, and some paid off quicker than others. But in the end, those guys that put in the extra work and the extra time, it always paid off for them. So it is, you know.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you know, I think, you know, we're limited in the off season as far as what we can do with our guys at our level. I think that's where that spring and summer can pay huge dividends for any player at any level. And that's why I kind of go back to the type of guy that you have and the type of players that you have in your programs. You have guys that are getting after it all summer long. You're going to have a chance to be really good. And, you know, our guys are blowing us up every day, trying to find new workouts, new things, trying to get creative with what they can do and try to take to their games to the next level. And I think that's awesome. It's huge. It pays off when you get into the season.
It does, and especially, you know, you guys graduate Brudnick and lose some upperclassmen, but you guys also still return a lot, you know, and I would imagine that work ethic that the senior class put in rubbed off on the underclassmen, and the goal as coaches is to continue that. So that way when those guys become upperclassmen, they're teaching the new guys, you know, what the standards and expectations are, so we can sustain success for the long run. You know, we don't want to be a NACC champ for 1 year. You know, we want to make sure that we're consistently at the top and putting ourselves in good positions at the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think, you know, to add to that, we've got a great nucleus coming back, and it's definitely an exciting time to be a Warrior here at WLC. These guys are bought in, and they're ready to continue to make some noise for years to come, and that's what's exciting. I mean, when you have the kind of success that we had this year, you know, those guys that were all in the locker room that are returning, they got to feel what that's like. They got to experience that. And that experience, you know, it pays off as time goes on. And I'm really excited for our guys. You know, I'm happy for the season that we had this year and couldn't be more proud. And I'm even more excited to see what we continue to do here.
You know, it's a difficult time right now for everybody. You know, whether you're in college athletics or not. You know, there's a lot of people that put a lot of work in. You know, the nurses and the medical people that are on the front line fighting this, trying to get the nation through this. You know, what are you guys doing right now in this situation with recruiting and obviously with retaining and you know, trying to get this thing going basketball wise? You know, how are you and the rest of the staff handling everything going on right now?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's definitely difficult times, but it's something that we're all going to overcome. And I think, you know, for us right now with where we're at is, you know, in the recruiting game, the first and foremost, most important thing is always to continue to recruit your own guys. And, you know, that's what we're doing right now. Is we're communicating with our guys on a daily and weekly basis through, you know, FaceTime or Zoom, text messages, whatever it might be, you know, trying to keep those guys on track academically, you know, putting at-home workouts together for them, conditioning plans, stuff like that, to kind of keep our guys active. I think, you know, probably for all returners right now, the most difficult thing that they're facing is that sense of routine. And just trying to keep our guys moving and doing stuff, you know, so they can stay positive throughout these times. And then, you know, from the recruiting aspect, it's kind of the same thing. Just trying to maintain those relationships that we've developed through the year. You know, I think we've done a good job of front-loading most of our recruiting this year. And, you know, that obviously helps with everything that's going on right now. But, you know, just still trying to maintain those relationships, seeing how guys are doing, and most importantly, you know, how their families are doing, how's life. You know, at the end of the day, the most important thing to me as a coach is these guys as people. And, you know, these are unprecedented times for us in our country right now. And I think the most important thing is just checking on guys to make sure their families and everybody's doing all right. I think, you know, that's the first and foremost number one priority right now.
And I know I've been around you for 4 years. That's not just coaching talk for you. That's something that you do in recruiting. That's something you do when you're building relationships with current players. It's for you. It's always been about more than basketball. It's been the academics, it's been the social, it's been the family, and I know a lot of our former players at Rockford, still have that relationship with you, and greatly appreciate what you've done for them and how you've always been there for them. At times when I probably wasn't on their list because of, maybe got on them in practice and things like that, but the relationship that you're able to build with those guys, I think what really shows is the fact that, you still have that relationship with them. And, you've been around the NACC for a while. You played in the NACC at Marion and finished up at Concordia, Chicago. You were with me at Rockford and now currently at Wisconsin Lutheran. To you, what makes the NACC special? The NACC is obviously very special to me because, one, I played in it, and two, now I'm coaching in the league. And, I think it's one of the up-and-coming leagues. I think it's gotten better every year from my time as a player to now, and I think that's what makes it special. All these schools that you become very familiar with, all the people. That's the other thing I'll touch on is we've got really good coaches in our league, have a good relationship with a number of them, and, I think that respect factor is huge for one another, and I'm kind of excited to see where our league goes as we grow with obviously adding St. Norbert's in a year here. So it's an exciting time for the NACC, and obviously I'm very biased having played and coached in it now. It's a good league, a lot of tough basketball. This year having two teams in the tournament, which hasn't happened in a really long time with Benedictine and Concordia, that was awesome for our league. It is. And it is a great league, and it's filled with a ton of great coaches and talent. And, if you look at the history of the league, you see that there's years that the league has fared well against some of the top leagues in the region, in the WEAC and some of the top teams in the Midwest, as well as the CCIW. It's a great league, and like you said, a lot of it has to do with the great coaches, and not just the head coaches, but assistant coaches as well. A lot of you guys were always out on the road recruiting, and there were some guys that I didn't want to see in the gym when I walked in because I knew it was going to be a tough recruiting battle, but that's what it's all about.
Oh, 100%. Guys are getting after it, and for us, being predicted to finish 8th this year and to win the league, to be co-conference champs was awesome. It kind of just shows you the parity that's in the league, and anybody's got a shot, and that's what's awesome about our league, and it's exciting times, like I said.
And that's, that's fun, and it's exciting, and it's the NACC, and I think, like you said, I think it's only going to continue to get better, especially with some new coaches in the league, and with St. Norbert joining the league next year. It's only going to make the conference deeper, in terms of talent and fighting for those top 6 spots against the NACC tournament. It's fun, it's an exciting time, but getting in a little bit into you and your coaching philosophy. You've been at the college level now for 6 years. You've been at 3 really good positions, and you've had a lot of success. Who has been a big influence on your coaching philosophy and in your coaching career?
Believe it or not, the one person that, really has shaped me as a person and who I am today is my dad. Just with how open-minded he's always been and how supportive he has been of my career. And he's a guy that I bounce ideas off of all the time. And, believe it or not, he's not a basketball guy, but he's a people's guy. And that's what I am. I love the game of basketball, but, I'm not a huge X's and O's guy. I'm a relationship guy. I'm a people's guy. I love being on the court with guys. Recruiting, that whole aspect is awesome to me. But, as far as coaches go, I've been extremely fortunate to work for a lot of really good guys. At my time at Franklin, I worked for Hall of Fame coach Terry Prather, He really taught me what it's like to be a professional, how to be punctual, on time. Then coming to work for you, I think the biggest thing I learned from you is the relationship side of things and having fun and bringing that energy every single day. And now, at WFC working for Coach Onenson, he is one of the best that I've been around. He's open-minded. He listens. I think that's the thing as an assistant. You love to work for guys that are going to hear you out. And, I think we all want our ideas to be used, those suggestions. But at the end of the day, he instills confidence in us to keep suggesting ideas even when he doesn't take them. And I think that's what's made him special. Another guy that, the reason I got into college basketball in the first place is probably a dear friend of mine, assistant coach at Lakeland, Marcus Leger. He's been a guy that, got me into this business. He coached me as a player, and, he's like, hey, Ruff, you're going to be a college coach someday. And at the time, I thought he was crazy, and, 5 years later, here I am. And without him, I don't know if I get that first opportunity at Franklin College, to be honest with you. But I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of great guys and have a lot of great mentors. And, that's the thing. I think everywhere I've been, I've learned something from everybody that I've taken. Even Coach Jones, where I played at Concordia, Chicago, who's now a Royals assistant. I've learned a ton from him, and I kind of look back on it every year. You can't always see what you're learning. It's not always right there in front of you, but you start to reflect on your time at each stop, and you start to kind of form, your own coaching philosophy based on those guys. And everybody that I've worked for has been awesome. Everybody that I've worked with has been awesome.
Obviously, one day you want to be in charge of your program and run your program the way you want it to be. What is your offensive philosophy? You've been around different coaches that have done some different things offensively. Being from Wisconsin, the swing is always a big part of Wisconsin players and high school coaches. But, when you're in charge of your program and you're the head coach overseeing everything, what would be your perfect offensive philosophy?
I'm biased to the defensive end of the basketball, so this isn't the easiest question for me.
That is true. That is true.
Growing up in Wisconsin, it's a possessions game, and defense is everything. The Tony Bennett, Dick Bennett philosophy. As far as offense goes, I'm going to be honest, I'm biased. After the success that we had this year with ball screen offense and dribble drive, playing in space and pace, it kind of sounds repetitive, right? You hear almost every college coach in the country when they take over a new program, hey, we want to play flat, we want to play fast, we want to play in transition, and I think that's exactly where I'm at right now. I love Princeton shin action, but the ball screen offense and dribble drive offense is really growing on me. When Coach A said, hey, Ruff, this is what we're going to do this year. What do you think? I'm like, whew, this is different. I have a lot to learn. So, it obviously takes a lot of patience and to do something that you haven't done before. And, after the success that we've had this year, it's hard to argue. I go back to, ball screen offense at the college level really started to take off back in the day when Billy Donovan was at Florida. I think they ran more ball screens than any other team in the country for a good 4-year stretch, and I think that's kind of where the game is headed and where it's growing. And, it probably sounds like every other coach in the country as far as offense and wants to score, so space and pace.
And it is. I think there was a year or two ago, there was a YouTube video that somebody put out with all the press conferences of the hirings, and that's what they talked about. They talked about two things. They talked about coming in and changing culture, and then also playing fast. And all coaches do, and they do want to play fast. But I think every coach has a different definition of fast and
Mm-hmm.
playing. Some want to play 94 feet up and down and play fast that way. Some want to play fast in the half court. So there's different ways of playing with pace, and obviously spacing is a huge part of it, and the college court being a little bit bigger. But getting up and down, and like you mentioned, ball screens are huge. Whether it's a high ball screen in the middle of the floor or sideline ball screens, there's various ones out there. But that's just the way the game's played now. And it's mostly, it's giving players a lot of freedom to go out and make plays within certain structure. It's not just, I haven't met a coach yet that says, hey, we just go out and we roll out the balls and whatever decisions you guys make with, that's what we go with. Every coach has a rule and philosophy within that, but, teams want to get out and run and they want to score, and because, that's what brings fans in, and teams have been successful with it.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think, the biggest thing is the system offenses versus letting guys have that freedom. I think a lot of people probably watch us play and are trying to figure out, how do you take them out of it, and that's one of the benefits of having a dribble drive and ball screen offense is, these guys grow up with the ball in their hands. That's where the game has been headed for the last couple of years, and guys aren't taught at a young enough age back when we were growing up as far as how to read a pin down screen or how to come off a flare screen. I mean, obviously it's still a critical part of the game, even with a dribble drive offense. You have flares, you have pin downs, but I think the biggest thing is just going back to letting guys play to their strengths and letting them have that creativity, which makes things a lot more difficult to stop. And that's what was fun. You heard a lot of people talk about, you guys are really fun to watch play, trying to figure out what you guys are doing. And that's what's special, One thing I think that was awesome for us, Coach was really intentional with our dribble drive reads. There was some method to the madness, and those 5-on-0 dribble drive reads, that's something that we did every day, and it's something that paid off. And, guys start to expand as they get comfortable, and it's something that really took off for us this year, and it's something that, if I ever have the opportunity to be a head coach someday, it's something that I will definitely be looking at.
Yeah, and you guys keep that stuff top secret. I tried to get that information out of you guys throughout the season, but you guys keep that on lockdown like it's Area 51 up there.
Yeah, we don't like to give secrets away. Hopefully Coach A's not listening right now. Probably viewed that as a secret right there. But I think once you play guys 2-3 times a year, it's pretty evident as to what teams are doing. So,
it is.
as you saw in the postseason,
it is. And all coaches know, you can have great sets, but if you don't have great players or the right players to run those sets, they're ineffective. You have to have the right players, and really it comes down to players and talent. And like you mentioned, giving some freedom. You can be a half-court run sets, every possession type team, but even within those sets, still having the freedom for guys to make different decisions based on what they're seeing or what they're feeling within those. There's freedom. There's different levels of freedom to each offensive philosophy.
Yep.
And
I agree, and that's where that talent, it really pays off at the end of the year, right? When you get into the postseason, everybody has an idea of what you're doing, and I think that's where mismatches come into play. I mean, you see it every year at the college level when March Madness happens, and you see some of these mid-majors upset some of these big teams. But at the end of the day, you look at a guy like John Morant, who was at Murray State there. I mean, he's arguably going to be top 10 point guard here in the league pretty soon, if not already. I think there's a lot of talent out there, and when you have special players like that can make plays not only for themselves but for other guys, it's huge at the end of the year.
It is. You got to have the players that make the plays, and the players make the coaches look good. And I know I had some players that made me look a lot better than what I am as a coach.
I think they say X's and O's are nothing without the Jimmy and Joes.
Correct.
So,
correct.
I've heard that a couple times.
I've heard that a lot too. So, offense, it's something that you've gained experience for. It's a little bit different. As an assistant coach, you always have suggestions and things like that. But this year at Wisconsin Lutheran, you had a pretty big role on the defensive end. You were in charge of the defense and what you guys were doing in different defensive coverages and ball screen coverages. What's your defensive philosophy?
As Coach Onison called me and Coach Smith, we were the assistant defensive coordinators to the defensive coordinator. That's what he'd joke about in practice. And, early on, we got some points put on our heads, and me and Coach Smith are looking at each other in the office like, well, I think he's going to have to fire the defensive coordinators here pretty soon because I don't know if we're going to get enough stops, but we definitely can score. But, I think as the year went on, guys really, I think first and foremost, getting guys to buy in on the defensive end. And my philosophy over the years has changed. I think, if you can score the basketball, guys are going to be more motivated to come down on the other end and play defense. And anytime you don't have to play transition defense, that's huge. Anytime you can get back into the half court and focus on that ball pressure, it eliminates a lot of rotations and stuff along those lines that, I think are critical. But going back to transition defense, I think that's where it all starts. Loading to the basketball, making sure guys are in position. And that's something we struggled with early on, and it's definitely something that we got better with as the year went on. And, I think communication even, just, I always say the devil's in the details, and, those little things all start to add up. And I think defense is it's a mindset. And, if guys are communicating with one another, and not just, I think players far too often hear the word communicate and they go, well, what do you mean communicate, coach? Are you talking? Are you early? Are you loud? Are you often talking? Things like that. And being very intentional and very direct with that communication, especially within ball screen coverages, anything along those lines. That communication and that ability to speak early enough, that can make or break a possession for you. And, we did a really good job with that. Guys were active as the season went on, and I think it played a huge role into the success that we have throughout the year, because at the end of the day, if you can guard teams, defense is the one thing that you need to travel with you when you're on the road, because you're not always going to shoot 50% everywhere you go. We shot the ball extremely well all season. And that definitely makes things on the defensive end a lot easier.
It puts you in a pretty good position when you're usually up 3-0.
That is true. That is true.
And it is. Defense is a huge passion of yours, and it's something I think you've spent a lot of time studying to try to make your niche in what you can really bring to a program. But also, it's the energy in which you coach. And not just on and off the floor. You are a very vocal, very loud, very positively energetic loud. There's different variations of being loud, but being with the, I know I mentioned a lot, but being around you for 4 years, when it came to the defensive side of the ball, that's where you were very engaged and intentional. But also that's where you also led a lot of guys to believing in themselves that they can guard somebody and be a big factor on the defensive end.
Yeah, at the end of the day, first and foremost, in order to coach a guy, it goes back to the quote of, guys got to know how much you care before they care what you know. And, that energy and passion that you kind of talked about, that's kind of that's what I put my head on. Every day, I'm a huge believer. Every day you wake up, it's the one thing that you can control is your attitude. Are you bringing positivity to the practice court every single day? Are you communicating? Are you bringing energy? And, just a sense of urgency even. And that's one thing that I think that has helped me in my career as a coach. Maybe a little too intense at times, but, that's what the head coach is there for, to kind of dial you back in and kind of remind you of what your role is. And but, like this year, Coach he let me be very vocal, which was awesome. He trusted me, and, you as well, and Coach Fraser. And it's something that, I take a lot of passion in. And I think that energy, man, you can't put enough emphasis into it, because there's days where guys don't want to be there, and there's days as you as a coach, aren't always bought in and always want to be there. I mean, you're bought in, but, that's one thing that I really learned from Coach this year is, having the ability to be able to compartmentalize. At the end of the day, we're all people, and, we all have our outside battles that go on in everyday life. And, at the end of the day, you got to be professional, and you got to find a way to always bring that energy every single day, so the guys are able to bring that same sort of energy. I hope I can look back on my career 20 years from now, and hopefully I'm still coaching, and still bringing that same sort of energy. I love the game. I love being around players. So to me, it's kind of ingrained in human nature, I guess you could say.
It is, and I know you're passionate about it, and I learned that from day one when Coach Stinson, now the women's coach at Rockford, got us in contact and the opportunity to be a GA for me, and talking to Coach Wiegert, somebody that I got to know through you and the conversations that we've had, all of us have had, sharing basketball philosophies. I think a lot of times when we all text each other, I think it eventually turns into a coaching clinic on the goods and bads of coaching and decisions. But I think an opportunity for you to take over a program is going to come in your future as you continue to put in the work, and you've had success everywhere you've been. I'm extremely proud of you. I'm glad I've gotten to be around you for 4 years and develop a friendship, but I've always appreciated all the hard work that you've done and the sacrifices that you made to be a part of our program the last 3 years we were there, and also listening to my crazy ideas on out-of-bounds plays, and also reflecting and fixing some things, X's and O's wise. So I've always appreciated that, Coach Ruffing. I definitely wanted to let you know that.
Oh no, I couldn't write a novel long enough to explain my appreciation and how grateful I am. For one, Coach Stinson putting me in contact with you the years ago that he did, and I've learned more from you guys and than I could ever imagine. And not only did I learn a lot, but we had a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, I think that was another thing that I took from you is that fun aspect that, this is the game of basketball, and we have the opportunity to coach these guys every day and have fun. And, it was a special time, and it's something that I still to this day reflect on, and all the guys that we had the opportunity to coach together. It's not every day you get to coach college basketball with some of your good friends, and not only are you a good friend, but somebody that's now become a mentor and a lifelong friend. So I definitely appreciate you.
Well, we definitely got a lot of basketball, hopefully in the many years moving forward to talk about and dissect. Just hopefully you get a head coaching job here in the next couple of years, and then I can flip the script and come be your assistant.
Well, I hope that happens someday, Coach. I'd love to have you. I think I'm a little ways away from it, but I'd love the opportunity and would love the opportunity to work with you again, and I think we'd have a lot of fun.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I appreciate you, Coach Ruffing, coming on and talking about your philosophies and success that you guys had at Wisconsin Lutheran. I know things are hard right now for everybody outside of athletics, which is the most important. I hope you and your family continue to stay safe and healthy, and then you guys can have the best off season for the program as possible.
Coach, I appreciate it, and like I said earlier, I appreciate you having me on, and hope family's doing well, and pray for everybody through these tough times.
Appreciate it. So tonight, like I said, I had a special guest on, Coach Ruffing from Wisconsin Lutheran, men's basketball, and NACC fans, please stay safe out there and stay healthy.